Hey, good morning and welcome to Blackberry Ridge. We're going to talk about a couple of things today. So first I'm going to give you a tutorial on how I can potatoes and a product that's called Tattler lids that I use when I know it's something I'm not going to be giving away. Tattler lids are a little more expensive to begin with, but when you spread it out in the long run, then they become much more inexpensive. The other thing is that we are working towards having a self-sustainable lifestyle, and that doesn't mean running to the store and buying 1,000 lids every year. And we love Lehman's. We get a lot of lids from Lehman's, but there again, that's something that if we even had less money, God forbid, we would not be able to use. So I was looking for something that was sustainable no matter what the situation we might be in. So the first thing that I have done was that we started this yesterday. Now y'all are smart people. Y'all don't need to watch me peel a potato. At least I don't think you do. Take a knife and you run it across the edge and you pull off the skin. Now there's two schools of thought on removing the skins. The first one is a lot of people think, no, and it's true, there's nutrition that's in the skins. But since I have store-bought potatoes here, I know what kind of stuff they put on potatoes. So I don't want that in my food. So the first thing I did was that I took the potatoes, I bought a 50-pound bag at the Food City, and I paid $11.99 for the 50-pound bag. That makes it like 24 cents a pound. I took the potatoes home and I went through them and I washed them thoroughly, and then I peeled them, and then I cut them up into, I'm cut these up into kind of big chunks, bigger than what I've been seeing some people do. So anyway, I have big chunks of potatoes, and I do that because I don't want it all to just disintegrate into mashed potatoes in my jar. And the other reason is that with the big pieces of potato, if I want to pan fry it, then I can take the potatoes later and I can cut it a little smaller. If I want to put this into a stew or a soup, or we want to make mashed potatoes out of them, the bigger chunks seem to work best for our household, for what I'm doing. I also can my potatoes in 3 different sizes. I can them in quarts, 1.5 pints, and pints. And that way I can grab the jar that best fits the needs that we need for that day so that we have the least amount of waste. And it just works best for us. So you need to find out experiment and find out what you need to do with what size jars works best for you. So I've cut them up, and this was done yesterday. This process, the way I do it, it takes 2 days to do this. The first day is the preparing, the second day is the canning. I put the potatoes and I put them in a pot, and I let them, and as I washed them, and I put them in a pot, and then that water became very white and starchy. So I drained that water out, let it sit for a little bit longer, drained that water out, and then I took the last batch of water and I put some fruit fresh in it. I put like a tablespoon of fruit fresh for this big pot here, and then I let them sit overnight. And as you can see, the water is cloudy, and that's where more starch has come out of this. Okay, so what we've got in our setup here is I've got one pot that's got hot water boiling in it, and I've got another one where I've got our hot jars in. They are being boiled. I'm getting ready to move the hot jars off the fire, and I'm getting ready to put the pressure canner up. I'm going to pressure can these potatoes. They're a low acid food. They need to be pressure canned. So we're going to get all that set up. Let me drain off this water, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the potatoes that is in this pot, and I'm going to put it in this pot of boiling water. And we'll be back at that point. Okay, got the potatoes in the boiling water, and I'm not going to cook the potatoes. I just want to get them hot. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. The first reason is to remove some of the excess starch that still might be in the potatoes that might make my water cloudy in my jar. If you get starchy water, that's okay. You can just rinse it off when you open the jar. I just personally don't like the way that it looks, and I don't know if it would affect the taste or not, but this is, so I go ahead and I'm wanting to remove part of the starch. The second thing is that anybody who knows anything about me is that when I can, I use hot jars, hot lids, hot rings, and I use hot product. So I'm getting the product hot, and that's going to remove part of the air also that's in here, which is real important when you're canning. Air is not a good thing when you're canning. So I got this in here. I need to get the salt ready. I'm turning the fire off of this, and we're going to get it. Well, we're going to get things steamrolling here. I do want to talk about Tattler lids. I have been using them now for 5 or 6 years. I do not use them on products that might be given away, because I have found that people, first of all, can't open the jar. There is a handy dandy little can opener that Tattler has come up with for opening up the jars. So if I give somebody one of these, then a jar that's got one of my Tattler lids, then I've also got to give them one of my handy dandy little can openers. Tattler is a reusable product. Unlike the single-use lids that are the metal lids, these are a single-use. And as y'all know what I'm talking about, the regular, this is a ball lid, the regular lids like this, these are called single-use lids. Some people use them more than once, but with pressure cooking, I definitely don't use them more than once. So that's a single-use lid. Okay, so this is what the lid part of it looks like. It's a little different, but it has, as you can see, it doesn't have that red stuff on it. And back in the back here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the fire off of this, swing this around. Okay. It has this, which I have hot. And you need to soften these. You need to put these into boiling water and soften these. And these are the gaskets or the rubber ring that goes in. And all that needs to be done is that you take this and you just put it in the lid like that. That's it. Just pop it in. And so now it looks like this, the single-use lids. Tattler says that you can use these at least 10 times, these gaskets at least 10 times. I don't know how I could count them. I mean, I bought like 500. I mean, I bought a bunch when I bought mine, many, many years ago after I found out this was something I wanted to use. I wanted something that I could can no matter what happened. So that's all we're going to do on those. We're going to put this little ringy thing here inside of that. Tattler, you have to do things a little bit different when you are processing. The first thing is that when we put this on, we are not going to finger tight the lids. Well, we're going to finger tight it, and then we want to back it off about 1/4 of an inch. It needs to be loose. The lid sits on there, and then the ring that goes on needs to be loose. I think I need some more coffee. Or less coffee. Okay. Okay, so it needs to be loose. And then we're going to process it in, like I say, in the pressure canner, which is getting hot right now. So let's get busy and get this stuff done. Okay, so remember, whenever you lift a lid up, lift it up away from your face. Okay, I've got hot jars in here that are in boiling water, or what the water was boiling until just a couple minutes ago. Remember that when you pour the water, you're going to pour it through the big hole. Okay, so I got my hot jar. Got my cannon funnel. Now I've got my cannon funnel. And we are going to take in, I'm going to switch out from the scoop spoon because I don't want this water in my jar. Now, this water was clean, clear water, and it is now white, starchy water. So we pulled off a little bit of extra starch. So we got the hot potatoes. And like I say, they haven't been cooking until they're, you know, totally done. They're just basically hot. We need 1 inch. 1 inch of room. So remember, that's going to be, we're going to keep it below this lower lip thing right here. 1 inch of headspace. Some people stuff their jars plumb full. I tend to leave it a little lower than some people do, just because I want to make sure that all of my product is under the water. And now I need to get some salt. Okay. Some people use a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to put a half a teaspoon of salt in here because I'm going to season these potatoes when I'm cooking. So I don't want a lot of seasoning in them right now. That's a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, we don't want to put this water in. Why? Because it's got the starch in it, and that's what we were just trying to get rid of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this clean hot water over here that my jars were in, and we're going to cover this with hot boiling water. We're going to take it up to the 1 inch line there. Now, this is really, really, really important. You've got to get these bubbles of air out. So I go around the edge with my debubbler. You can use your wooden spoon like I used with the cabbage. I don't want to be as aggressive with this as I was with the cabbage, because I don't want to bust my potatoes all up. Put just a little smidge more water because it settled some when I put the... Okay. So, I'm going to put this cold ring back in the water because it got cold sitting there waiting on me. I'm going to get a hot one out. I'm just going to put it inside here. And then put it on. And then another thing that I do is that I go like this, and I put my finger on the top of it. That way this doesn't twist as I'm putting the ring on. Finger tight, back it off 1/4 inch. Show you one more time. Finger tight, and I don't mean torque it down. I mean just where you start getting some resistance, and then back it off 1/4 inch. Okay. Now, if you should ever have one of these jars where instead of it being convex, I think that is, where it's bowed down, if it's popped up, looks like a, I don't know, if it's popped up, then be super careful with it. That means, first of all, that you've torqued this lid down too much and it couldn't vent. And the other thing is that if this lid fails when you're taking it out, it can scald you. So you be careful. And like I say, if it's ever where it's popped up instead of popped down, just leave it for a while. Okay. So I'm going to take this and we're going to put it in the canner. Okay, I'm going to be back after I get the other 6 jars ready. Okay, I told you I needed some more coffee or something this morning. Let me tell you what I forgot. Or who can tell me what I forgot? Yell it out. What didn't I do when I was processing that jar that I have just pulled right back out of the water again? Some of you have yelled it out, and that's good. You need to take your cloth and you need to wipe the rim really well, because you don't want a grain of salt or a little bit of starch from the water that we've used. So make sure that you wipe that rim really good. Okay. And now we're going to do it again. Put the lid on. Oh Lord, can you believe that I forgot to do that? Finger tight, back it off 1/4 of an inch. Put it in the canner. All right. All right. All right, got all the jars in. Take this out of your face. Got all the jars in into the canner. I've made sure that my vent that's right here is open, and the way I did that was that I looked through it and made sure that I could see light through it. Every once in a while I'll take like a long pin or a bamboo skewer, one of these things, and I will make sure that there's no debris that's up inside here, but I look through it, it looks good. This one doesn't use a ring, or I use a gasket. I'm putting it on, and it's got these little crooks right here. I'm locking it in on the little, I'm talking about the little crooks. These things right here, and that helps to lock it in. So it locks in on this. I'm taking the wing nuts, and on the opposites, I'm tightening them just finger tight to start with. Just to get it where it's starting. It's kind of greasy. Okay, now I'm going to take it and I'm going to torque it down, going around at opposites. And I'm getting it finger tight on me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until I have steam coming out that vent that I showed you. And I want a pretty good thing of steam coming out. I'm going to let it vent. That's called venting. I'm going to let it vent the steam for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to put my weight on. I'm going to use at my altitude. I'm going to use 10 pounds of pressure. But I'm actually going to let the gauge get up to about 11 or 12 pounds. I'd rather have it a little bit over than be under. You can be over, just don't be under. And then at that time, I'm going to start processing. If we were doing pints, it would be 35 minutes. If we were doing 1.5 pints or quarts, it's 40 minutes. I went ahead, and it's probably 37 for the 1.5, but I just went ahead, since there's only 5 minutes between the pint and the quart, and bumped it up to the quart size, to the 40 minutes. After it processes at 40 minutes, then I'm going to let the whole pot go down, cool down, and let all the pressure go out of it. At that time, I will take my little jiggle thing here. Focus. I'll take the little jiggle thing, and I will rock it just to make sure that there's no more steam that's in there, and I'll rock it just a little bit. So we've got 0 pressure on the gauge, and I'm rocking this, and then I will take this off. At that time, I will open the wing nets up opposite of each other, just like we put it on. We're just going to do it in reverse. Release those wing nets, and unlock the little cookie things. Turn it and unlock those, and then I'm going to open it away from my face. Put the hot lid away. At that time now, because since we're dealing with Tattler lids here, I'm going to take the jars out, put them on the cloths like we always do when we're doing our canning, and I'm going to take 2 layers, two hand towels, and then and I'm also going to have a hot pad mitt on my hand. And then and that's when you torque those rings down onto your jars. Take them out one at a time and torque those lids down. Now be very careful. There is a video that's out on YouTube where a gentleman got 2nd and 3rd degree burns because he had a failure. Remember, that was when the lid was dished up. If you pull it out and it's making that sss or anything like that, don't touch it. Now here's another thing I'd like to go into with canning potatoes. The first reason that I can potatoes is for the convenience of it. There are times when I'm running around here and I'm working really, really hard. I come back into the house and Ambria's looking at me and she's like going, "Are we eating today?" And so I can very easily pull out a couple of jars because they've already been cooked, a couple of jars, and I can throw something together very quickly. The other reason is if, God forbid, something happens to me where I'm sick or I'm down or I'm hurt, and this has happened, when I got seriously wounded, I was not able to get up and move around. I mean, it was a serious accident, and Ambria was having to take care of me. And she was going through the cupboards trying to find stuff for us to eat. And she did the best that she could. She did a really good job. I'm still breathing. I'm still she took really good care of me. But I realized at that point that I cook with ingredients and I cook with recipes, but I need to have it so that no matter what happens, Ambria is taken care of. And I needed more Pop-A-Top type stuff. You know what I mean? Pop-A-Top. So I needed to have more soups that were canned or more canned soups from the store. And I needed to have more things that were already cooked where I could tell Ambria, "Honey, go in and grab a jar of those potatoes, add a little, put it in the microwave, heat it up, put a little bit of milk and butter in it, smash it up, and we'd have mashed potatoes." Or I could tell her to grab a can of the cabbage and go and get one of our kibasas out of the freezer, and she could cut up the kibasa, she could put it in the cabbage, and then she could open a jar of these potatoes up. If she had to, she could stick it in the microwave, and we would have, cabbage, kibasa and cabbage with potatoes. So I needed to have more things that were, the recipes were broken down, and the heavy stove cooking was already done for her convenience. So you need to think about that. I mean, is there a possibility you may have to have somebody taking care of you? I mean, do you have a husband that doesn't really cook? Maybe you do. If you do, what a blessing. But if you don't, I mean, is there another family member that, that may be taking care of you? Or like I say, you get going crazy, and the next thing you know, you got people looking at you like going, "I'm starving." And you don't want to have to go and sit and peel the potatoes and do all that stuff. And then here's the third reason why I can potatoes. Is when I can get a deal like 50 pounds of potatoes for $11.99, or we go and we have potatoes that are coming out of our garden, I don't want one bite to spoil. Cannot do it, people. Cannot have one bite spoil. So this is a way where if you get some potatoes that are starting to get kind of wrinkly or questionable, you can take and you can can them at that point, and that will extend the life of those potatoes or the storage of those potatoes. Anyway, I hope that this is helping. God bless America. Pray for our country. And as always, thank you very much for coming to this side of the mountain on Blackberry Ridge. Let somebody know about us. Get you a small box of Tattler lids. Oh, I did want to say Tattler lids. I know somebody's going to be asking me, so I might as well say, to get a box of a dozen lids, it's going to set you back right now, I think about $10 for a dozen lids. So that's under $1 a lid. So if you use them like 5 times, then they're free. I mean, they have used up the same usefulness of what the price of the one-time lids are. All right. God bless America. Pray for our country. share, let somebody know about us. Vivian Ann on the side of the mountain in Northeast Tennessee saying God bless. Y'all take care. Happy canning.